Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lords of the Fallen. Today I'm going to be discussing crossbows, especially in PvP. Now, if you're wondering why I'm fighting with a particularly skillful fight against Elian the Starved, it is to give the closest picture of what crossbows are like before the 2.5 patch. Now, the big thing on the 2.5 patch that I want to focus on is the restriction of consumables, specifically with ammo pouches, only being able to use one per Crimson Ritual and having no other way to regenerate ammo or restore it. Heavenly Vials restore mana. There are runes that restore mana when put into shields, as well as rings for both health and mana regeneration. And there is not anything like that for ammo. There is an Umbral Eye that I do have equipped that allows me to use ranged and throwable weapons at the cost of withered health if I'm out of ammunition. However, again, it is still not it's not the same as the spam that you can see in this particular fight. So it put crossbows in a strange spot, because before the 2.5 patch, when you could just spam ammo packs, Dervla's crossbow, which is the one I'm showcasing here, is honestly one of the premier it is a very, very powerful to be feared PvP weapon, because it can completely obliterate your posture and health, especially depending on what runes and other things that you stack, and it's very easy to use. There is an amulet that allows you to reload the crossbow while dodging, and crossbows, uniquely comparative to bows, have bolts that explode on impact. So if there is a wall or something behind the person, creature, whatever you're shooting at, you can just shoot, and if it misses slightly due to the auto tracking, you don't care, and the damage output is crazy. And this is a strength build that's using Dervla's crossbow, so this is nowhere near damage optimal, and it has pretty much completely it maybe not trivialized, but has certainly made this boss fight a heck of a lot easier than when I was trying to use the fire javelins, because Elian likes to wander around. It also showcases that I was on a quest to kill all the NPCs in Skyrest Bridge, because I wanted to test out that boss sword on an upcoming Umbral build. So that is part of, but not the only reason why I have been delaying things. So now we're into PvP. And although this is me just getting invaded, and I like to show off times of sometimes what it's like of when someone jumps into my world while I'm on a collectathon quest. And here I've got Andreas of Eb's sword and the Hunter's crossbow, which still does an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage and has 208 burn buildup, which is going to come into play with the next part of the build now that it's fully complete, with the Proselyte longsword, which I probably mispronounced, but it's a long sword with 100 burn buildup, and I have a ring that says I also trigger ignite buildup while triggering burn buildup. So basically, with 4 stacks of health regeneration, I am building up two pretty heavy damage statuses over time, and doing a good amount of just regular damage, as well as just hitting people at range and being able to break posture for Grievous strikes. So but yeah, so if you want to go get Elian the Starved's weapon, it is quite a journey. You kill everyone and lose a lot of the function of Skyrest Bridge. So it definitely will delay some build making process. And crossbows, being relatively single target, are in a unique spot for 1v2s, but you can, it's still pretty darn good. It isn't necessarily as much like AoE as a spell, but with the explosive shots and the reloading while dodging, you can still just like turn around and like blast a quick shot, and it's pretty similar to being able to just like turn and burn with a quick spell. And honestly, like, I think crossbows probably are like the easiest to aim ranged weapon. Bows unfortunately have the disadvantage of not having arrows that explode, or at least as far as my memory serves. So that is unfortunately a pretty big disadvantage, but the damage of crossbows is still pretty good, even though I'm not stacking a ton of stuff. And this is just cool because I can just shoot next to him and then hit him with the splash damage of the explosive bolt to take out the phantom. So is this the strongest PvP build I've ever run? No, but it's been very fun and very consistent. And I think that crossbows probably are one of the premier ranged options for PvE, especially because you can just slap a bunch of health runes in, strength and agility stack really well with some very strong melee options, and there's just less things to keep track of. It is just an absolutely solid powerhouse for PvE, and seeing that it's still just pretty viable is awesome. And especially even after the 2.5 patch, where the ranged options that are not magic got a pretty severe nerf. And this particular one I wanted to show, just like, you could still run into someone who's probably level 500 stacking aura buffs. They have Dervla's Greatsword, which is 29 agility, 29 strength. They are running several auras, and that is a that is an umbral spell, and they have a holy buff on their sword, meaning they have a very full, very large stat spread, and they have a lot of soulflay charges, and are also just kind of standing in an empty field. And without things like graveyard fog, and why I'm not just kind of like turning around and swinging, even more so like in Elden Ring, is that the hyper armor in Lords is dumb, and there's not much you can do in terms of just like oh no, sorry, that is an umbral weapon, but still, they had a bunch of aura buffs. So, like, it is really difficult in order to break someone out of their poise if they're level 500 with a giant sword. And although I lost, I still reserve the right of them thinking that they can trash talk by pointing down by being probably 500 levels higher than me in one of the most unoriginal builds that I have seen. But that jump attack was amazing, and again, crossbows being really fast with pretty good damage AoE. Again, in 1v2s, still solid, and now here is a longer 1v1 with someone dual wielding enchanted grinning axes. So this kind of just shows where probably where I just have an opportunity to not finish the fight off very well, but how I guess fatigue sets in terms of resource stuff, where they're not really able to keep their axes up very well, but I'm able to just keep shooting. And again, like I said, the magic is in a unique spot because Heavenly Vials restore magic, and as well as health and clear statuses. So being able to, at least with the Hunter's Crossbow specifically, is the one I wanted to use, because it had the status build up, and players are not able to clear statuses other than with Heavenly Vial or Sanctuary. So it is really, really powerful and dangerous, which makes the Grinning Axe honestly probably one of the scarier weapons, especially with how power stancing works. I do still really appreciate having access to heavy shields with a high strength, because Being able to just stagger someone out of their attacks rather than have them just walk forward and mash R1 is really great. And then, as you can see, there was an ignite proc, so things are going pretty. Like, this build, although very simple on paper with strength and health regen, has a lot of really strong things going for it, and you absolutely could change it up. Also notably, Derva's crossbow has been nerfed like 4 or 5 times and not rebuffed like Rivers of Blood and or Moonveil. It was that crazy in PvP, because you saw I took out like a quarter of their posture bar. Derva's crossbow fires 3 times. And if you have, I think it's the Holy Triptych, granted you might not be able to auto reload, but and Holy Bolts, you can deal extra posture damage using with holy damage, and it does really good holy damage for some reason. So you can just completely obliterate someone's posture, and Aureus can call a tactical missile strike on somebody and send someone in with Derva's crossbow, and basically have the same effect as the Aureus's judgment beams at the end of the game for much less cost. So yeah, crossbows are solid. Like I said, PvE, they are amazing, and this is a very fast one, so I should do an outro and say have an amazing day, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I hope to see you in the next video. See ya!